There are endings, reader, and this is one. Some endings are beginnings, as I have said. Such was that day which surely was 3 days long at least. It had seen already the end of the Americanii, the death of their last machine. It had seen the death of Latara, of the new order, the new galaxy of which good Lorien dreamed. It would see the end of Orgassos in but a short hour's time. But it was a beginning as well. Would be a beginning. That day had given me the demiurge, and with it the means to become what the Absolute demanded I become. That day would be, the beginning of the Sun Eater. If what I have done disturbs you, reader, I do not blame you. If you would read no further, I understand. You have the luxury of foresight. You know where this ends. I shall go on, alone. Disquiet Gods, Book 6, the penultimate story in the Sun Eater saga by Christopher Rocchio. This is my favorite Sun Eater book. Why is that? Well, it's because it takes all of the things I liked from all of the previous books and mashes them together. Each book feels like it has its own identity. Book 1 had the coming of age and the gladiator and the hubris and the first contact with the Cielson, well, sort of Hadrian's first direct contact with the Cielson. Book 2 had this just dark, ominous, dread, gothic horror kind of vibe. Book 3 had the court intrigue, and like each book has its own identity. Disquiet God seems like it takes bits and pieces of each of those, slams it all together. There's callbacks to way back early on in the series. A lot of things come back around and they're important again. It's just, it's a masterpiece. And this, to this day, I've said this every time I talk about Disquiet Gods, this is the piece of media that has made me cry the hardest. A moment towards the end of this book just destroyed me. It's, wow. So let's jump into this. This is the last recap as we prepare for Shadows Upon Time. This one's probably going to be long. I think these have generally gotten a little bit longer with every book because it's getting more and more complex. This one is no different. In fact, I think it's going to ramp up probably even more because there's so much packed into this book, not just in terms of the plot itself, but some of the reveals and the lore and all that kind of stuff that's going on. So it's been about 200 years or so, roughly, since Perfugium, since Hadrian was meant to be sent to Belucia to be imprisoned in exile for punching the emperor in the nose, deservedly so. And then he's just been waiting, basically just chilling on Jad, the planet of fire, right? He's there being away from the empire, away from the war, just trying to live his life. And he has a daughter now, Cassandra. And so this is a whole new element, a whole new aspect of Hadrian that we're exploring here, is him as a father. We see one day as he's just peacefully on Jad, as peaceful as he can anyway after everything that he's gone through, an imperial ship arrives carrying Edward Albe, who is a Hapsis agent, Hapsis being this sort of imperial intelligence agency. And he comes, and Hadrian does not want to talk to him. He doesn't like him, but Albe gives him sort of a secret note from the emperor and also a hologram from Crispin, from Hadrian's family back on Delos. And we also learn here that the Minos cancer virus thing has spread and has just wreaked havoc through the imperial planets. We know that Nessus has fallen to the Cielson. We know that the Lothrian Commonwealth has been gaining power and influence. There's a lot of bad stuff that's going on, but Hadrian just does not want to hear it, and he leaves, right? He just sort of stonewalls Albe. He takes the letter and hologram that he was given, but he just walks away. And he goes back and he interacts with his daughter. She's in the Swordmaster School there on Jad, and she's very gifted in swordcraft, if you will. And we see the love that he has for her, and that she is sort of carrying forth the love that he has for Valka. I mean, Cassandra was born through the blood that was in Valka's phylactery that Hadrian still had after she died. And so there's so much love and pain at the same time when he is with her. And he clearly cares about her a lot. We see her go through the trials to become a full-fledged swordmaster, and she succeeds. We don't know what happens during those trials. I would love, Christopher, if you ever happen to see this somehow, I want a short story or a novella or something of what's going on with her as she goes through the trials. I want to see all the stuff. That'd be great. That'd be really cool. But she succeeds. It's clearly extremely difficult, and she is now a complete Maescalos swordmaster of Jad. And here I think we have a really interesting dichotomy of, we see her excitement and Hadrian's excitement for her. And this is sort of like mirroring him when he was young, when he was sort of around Cassandra's age, when he thought he had such high aspirations, such high hopes for what he could do. And he was so excited to get involved in the war effort. He was just happy to be doing what he was trying to do. Now, of course, he's older and jaded and things have not worked out like he wanted them to. But I think we see that. That's really interesting, that excitement. We also see, though, the echoes of his past, the bad parts of his past, right? As he sits down and he finally reads the letter and he watches this hologram. So in the letter we see the emperor needs him back. He's trying to bring Hadrian back into the war effort. He's giving him a full pardon for punching him. And they have this message that Hapsus has discovered the location of a watcher, and they fear it's going to fall into the hands of the Cielcen, so they want to go and try to kill it. They're going to try to kill a god. We also see in this hologram from Crispin that Hadrian's father, Lord Alistair, is dead, that Hadrian's sister that he never met, Sabine, has been sent away. Crispin has not had any children, so when he dies, the Marlow line of succession will end. And so they'll no longer be ruling over Delos like they're so used to, and it's just all of Hadrian's past just is sort of crumbling away, and he's left just with this forward momentum that he has of, do I go back? Do I rejoin the Empire and try to go kill this Watcher? Or do I just stay here with Cassandra? What do we do from now? But then Hadrian and Cassandra talk, and they decide to go jump back in once more into the fray, right? And they decide to go, and Hadrian meets with the Hapsus director, Oberlin, who sort of gets him up to speed, tells him about how they found evidence that a Watcher was found on this other planet and killed a long time ago, and they believe they've developed this sort of EMP weapon that they can use to kill this Watcher that they believe that they have found on the planet Sabratha, and they're going to go head there and investigate. And when they get there, they find some crazy stuff. Okay, so first, there's these ruins. They're finding some evidence of those VR2, those weird ancient race, like sort of predecessor to humans and Cielcen and everybody that seem to worship or work for these Watchers in some way. So again, we're seeing these things. We found evidence of these things on UA. We're finding this weird black stone-like substance, right? That we found on UA, of course, that was also on Emesh, right? When they were investigating those ruins. And so this makes me wonder, if we go back to Emesh, is there a Watcher on Emesh? I'm very curious about that. I'm very, very curious. I want to know what's going on with that because it seems, it's got these ruins. It has the weird, trippy visions. It's got that's the same material, right? So I don't know. I'd be curious to reread and see if there's something that hints at these VR2 things also, but who knows? But anyway, so we find that evidence. We find this weird black skeletal hand with 6 fingers that they think might belong to this Watcher, part of the skeleton of this Watcher, of its hand. They find evidence of some weird stuff with like matter, right? They find these 3 people who seem like they're almost copies of each other, and they seem to be connected yet separate, which is a really weird sci-fi thing to try to describe, but there's something going on with physically of the matter of this thing, of these 3 things that are one yet different. And when they're investigating this skeletal hand, Hadrian touches it, and right when he touches it, a man falls to his death from the scaffolding above. Creepy. Weird. Coincidence? Maybe. I don't know, right? But later, Hadrian and Cassandra find a crash site, and they're going and investigating, and Hadrian finds some like ripples in the sand, right? Sabratha is like a sand planet, and he finds these ripples and these designs, and he sees this like dark figure in the distance that he feels like he can hear it, but then it's gone, and like he strongly feels that the Watcher caused this crash, and then he thinks maybe the Watcher caused this man falling to his death when he touched the bones as well. So maybe the Watcher is active; it's able to manipulate something, time, space, matter, directly act on the world physically. I don't know, right? There's something weird going on here that's beyond what Mayudanar was able to do on UA. So they're here for years investigating, and eventually one day, all hell breaks loose. All the bad things happen, as they do in Sun Eater, right? Oberlin is assassinated. There is Cielcen world ships on the horizon. They find a painted man there. Just chaos everywhere, fighting everywhere. And Hadrian and Cassandra are captured by this painted man. And the painted man takes them to the Cielcen captain Ramanthanu, and they want to use them as bait to draw out the Watcher. The Cielsen are trying to find the Watcher so that they can, remember, they worship these things, right? These are their gods. So they're trying to draw this thing out. They want Hadrian to act as bait. Hadrian is terrified, of course, right? He doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want to be involved in the war. He doesn't want Cassandra to be hurt. He is scared of this Watcher. He's trying to figure out some way, how do I get a message to the crew so that they can use the weapon and try to kill this thing? Like, what do we do? And they take Hadrian and Cassandra to the temple with that black skeletal hand. They sacrifice a couple of these Cielsen. The black hand curls into a fist and disappears, and Hadrian feels the presence of the Watcher. He feels like he's being watched by these eyes, right? This is sort of a motif that we see a lot in this book, these eyes with this particular Watcher. And he's trying to use his quiet powers to find a reality where something else can be happening, and there are no realities where the Watcher is not there, which just gives you chills, right? That's bad. That can't be good. And the Watcher attacks the Cielsen now. So it seems, even though the Cielsen worship the Watcher, maybe the Watcher maybe feels a little bit differently. Hadrian and Cassandra are trying to escape. Hadrian gets pulled into this vision where he's back in the temple, and he tries to attack the Watcher, and it stops his sword. He sees this vision of the VR2 getting crushed and destroyed, and sees that they're made of these mechanical parts, which again, scary to think about, right? We know what machines, how they're portrayed in this universe, right? Not good. And we see that they're chanting the name of this Watcher, Ushara. And Ushara now takes the form of this beautiful woman, six-fingered hands, right? Similar to the Cielsen. So were the Cielsen made in the image of the Watchers, perhaps? I don't know. Or is it some sort of weird illusion that they're using to gain the allegiance of the Cielsen, right? We don't know everyone's motivations, but takes the form of this beautiful woman, and she's showing Hadrian these visions. One is to try to get some sympathy, basically, right? She shows him a vision of her being stranded on Sabratha and being isolated and alone and scared and hungry and just all these bad things, right? Trying to get him on her side a little bit. And she shows another vision of her and Hadrian married, ruling over the universe, right? A potential future where they are hand in hand, ruling for millions of years, masters of everything. Their line of succession is these half-god, eternal beings. It's just this... and it mirrors the vision that Hadrian had before of him as the emperor with Selena as his wife. It mirrors that here, but of course much darker, more twisted, more powerful, more eternal. But Hadrian rejects this. He decides that he will not accept that reality. He's going to be back here on Sabratha trying to fight his way out, but he knows that they have to kill this thing somehow. And when he breaks out of the vision, he sees her as this much more horrifying thing. Many eyes, winged, multiple limbs, like just scary. What I picture in my brain is like the seraphim angels that you see in the Bible, where it's magnificent but horrifying at the same time. And he gets outside. He's trying to run away, and he gets pulled up into the sky. Right, he's levitating upwards, and he looks up and he sees these giant eyes watching him, and he's able to use his quiet powers to break that hold and get away from this. Right, come back down to earth and get away. But wow, that's so scary to think about. And it only gets worse, really. We see lightning spreads across the sky and like freezes in place, and humans and Cielsen both are being raised up into the sky and killed, and Cassandra starts to be raised up, and Hadrian's frantically trying to save her and just barely is able to do it. Like, it's so chaotic, and this Ushara is so unbelievably powerful and gigantic. We see a gigantic form rise up out of the ground, right? Her physical body. This, like, dude. And then something even more unthinkable happens. Hadrian's able to rescue Cassandra using his quiet powers, and now having witnessed the Watcher kill all of these Cielsen and reject their worship, seeing Hadrian defeat or at least oppose this thing, Ramanthanu and some of his Cielsen retinue want to serve Hadrian now. They go and swear loyalty to Hadrian, which is not something that we see Cielsen do ever. They do not do servitude, right? They do triumph and death. Those are their options. And here we're seeing like a cultural shift, right? There's everything that they knew, their goals, their traditions, their culture, their motivations, everything's been upended now, right? These Watchers, these gods that they worship, that they're trying to get to, that they're trying to unite with, has rejected them. And so they seem to maybe be rejecting their culture and their past and their traditions, and they're going to go side with the more powerful being, in this case, who they think might be Hadrian. And so now Cielson, Hadrian, everybody, the humans, like they're trying to get away, right? Ushara keeps coming in, going away, and which is interesting in and of itself. I'm curious, right? They keep sort of beating her back, and then she surges back up, and then they beat her back. We've seen this happen a couple times already with Hadrian doing his thing. And they get to the ship, and they're trying to fly away, and Ushara is back, and Hadrian gets this crazy vision where he starts to see double, and he sees a second version of himself. His body is split, copied into two, and he perceives both bodies equally. It's just like when they got to Sabratha and they saw the three people that had this weird thing where they were the same person yet different. Like Hadrian is now experiencing that, and one of his bodies is being pulled up into the sky yet again, as he's frantically trying to get Albay and the others to use this weapon just to kill this thing, please. And as he's being lifted up into the sky, I have this crazy, this is horrifying. You know, he just looks up and it's these giant black rings through the sky and all these eyes, and it's just inconceivably huge. And like this, to me, this is peak cosmic horror that we get in Sun Eater. This is like, when I close my eyes and think about what this looks like, as I'm being raised up into the sky and I'm seeing this above me, and the Cielson world ships are blowing up, and this is horrifying, right? I cannot wrap my head around how gigantic this thing is, how powerful this thing is. Oh man! But we see some light in the distance, and we hear some music emanating in the distance, and all of a sudden, Hadrian starts to drift back down towards the ground, and his second body sort of catches the falling one, and it's reunited into one. It seems like Albay was able to use this EMP weapon to disperse Ushara, right? To get rid of it to hopefully destroy it. And in that moment, Hadrian senses Ushara's hatred and her jealousy and this feeling of that she was made for a greater purpose than what she was told to do. It's like, what does this mean, right? It seems like maybe she's hinting that she was created by the Quiet, and it's like, what's going on with this, right? New layers, new developments. But she is dispersed. Seems like she's destroyed. Hadrian falls back down to the ground, right? He's reunited in that body, so he's got that one full body now. They're trying to leave, right? So now we got to get the heck off of this planet. We got the remains of our troops of the Hapsis intelligence agency, of Ramanthanu and his few remaining Cielson that are there, that they seem very, in fact, loyal to Hadrian. They're not killing all the humans. They're just kind of there. We got Hadrian, we got Cassandra, Albay's there. Hadrian, while they're leaving, senses part of Ushara is inside of his head, that she is somehow connected to his consciousness somehow, which is, man, just as scary as everything else that happened. But here, we sort of get a breath. This sort of midpoint climax of the book, that this is just, again, absolute peak cosmic horror that we've gotten. It's bringing all that stuff back, the investigations, the research, the cosmic horror that we get in books 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Where it's just all those elements are coming back, and it's just, oh man, it's so good. And now we're going to bring in the court politics and all those aspects from book 3 that so many people, including myself, really, really love. We get back to Forum, and Hadrian has along the way sort of told Cassandra about his experiences with the Quiet, his powers, right? He's sort of getting her up to speed, the things that he has hidden from her. They get to the planet. Princess Selena is there, and she's, beautiful as ever, regal as ever, and she is there to greet Hadrian. And it seems like there's some sort of unspoken, like, she's been waiting for him kind of thing, because they're supposed to get married way back in book 3, right? And Hadrian, after everything that happened on Sabratha, is basically like, guys, we need something more powerful. This EMP thing, we barely made it out of there. We need a more powerful weapon. We need to go to Vorgassos and get these ancient Mirikani weapons that can actually kill these things, which is crazy to think about. And also, love that we're talking about Vorgassos again, because we all love all the Vorgassos stuff in Howling Dark, so it's cool to bring that back into the fold as well. But now, we get something crazy happening, and that is a meeting of people that we never thought would meet. We have Hadrian, we have the Imperial Court, we have the Emperor, we have some of these extra Solarian exalted that have shown up, which are these really creepy extrasolarian human machine hybrid android gross things. Very interesting descriptions of these people in here, by the way. We see Lorian Aristides walks off of this ship that's come to this meeting, that he is the Lord Commandant General of this army that serves Kalen Herendites, who is this leader of Latara, this separate group who has been gaining power, gaining influence, building their army, and is essentially starting to become a threat to the Empire. Why are they here? Well, they're talking about trying to form an alliance between Herendites and Emperor William. And Lorien reveals that they killed this Viadon general of the Cielsen. They revealed that they destroyed this massive fleet of Cielsen, just displaying their power. And he talks about how they have this technology that can pick up all communications for a gigantic and unbelievable distance across space. They can intercept all communication. And he says that they will share this with the Emperor if the Emperor will cede part of the Empire to Herendites to be able to expand his domain and allow him to expand more into this other part of space so that he can build his empire, right? So that not necessarily so that he can overthrow William, at least not yet. Maybe he wants to, we're not sure, but he at least wants to be able to expand his own power in his own domain. And so negotiations are ongoing, but Hadrian and Lorien get their reunion that we've been waiting for. The last we saw of Lorien, he was breaking Hadrian out of prison at the end of book 5 so that Hadrian could go out and be in exile, and Lorien was going to take the fall for this. And we didn't know exactly what was going to happen. However, now Lorien is back, and he's somehow linked up with Kalen Herendites and got really high up in his army. We see that most of his physical impairments have been healed. There's no machine implants or anything like that, but he's doing way better than he used to, which is pretty cool. He's still kind of frail, but it's a lot better than the suffering that he used to constantly have. And he's gained a lot of respect in the Lataran army. And we see that he genuinely believes in Herendites here too, which we as the reader have come to trust Lorien quite a bit at this point. So it's like, oh, maybe this guy, maybe he really can help, right? Who knows? Maybe he's not so bad of a guy. Albe has to leave Forum, and before he does, he gives Hadrian a note in secret telling him that the Chantry is going to oppose him trying to meet with the Emperor soon. And they also know about the Cielsen that are under his control now, and Hadrian worries that they're going to suspect him of treason or try to convict him of treason. He worries they're going to try to assassinate him again for the 75th time, right? There's always after him, right? So now he's on the lookout for this. And a little bit later, one of these Chantry members who is there on Forum comes up to Hadrian. He's kind of got his guard up, and she's really upset. She's desperate. She's really upset about this Herendites thing, and she kind of grabs his wrist, and she's just like, please, like, will you look into this guy? This is not good. And Hadrian, he gets away, and, that was weird. That wasn't cool. I really got to watch these guys. And goes about his day, and he starts, he meets with Selena, and she, tries to kiss him, but he's, really distracted. He's just feeling really hot, right? He starts to sweat, and it's just hotter and hotter and hotter. And all of a sudden, he starts to bleed out of his eyes. His hands are bleeding, and he realizes that Chantry member poisoned him. And not just does he seem to be poisoned, he is dissolving. He's melting on the ground. And with his last breath, he calls out to his servant Nima, and he's like, hey, please keep Cassandra safe. Tell her to only trust Lorien and Albe. We can't trust anybody else here. And he melts into this pile on the ground, dying again, right in front of Selena, by the way. And what a horrible death, number one. Two, once again, killing off our main character who is telling us his story in this framing narrative. That, again, Rocchio knows that we're like, Hadrian's going to make it, right? He's got to tell us the story at the end. He can't die. He's died twice. He's died twice. This is crazy, right? And so, yet again, this is a moment in this book that I just gasped, right? And I couldn't believe it. And what comes next is even more unbelievable. Hadrian wakes up in the realm of death and finds himself in this weird kind of underground place. He sees this boy named Rag and this homunculus named Salt, which, funny enough, this homunculus was the one who was on that ship that took him off of Delos originally, way back at the beginning of book 1, which is a really funny little Easter egg. But also, what's going on with that thing? Why is it here? And why is it conscious? And, I'm curious what's going on with Salt. But he's talking to Rag, and we find out that Hadrian seems to have been dead for a very, very, very long time. We are at the end of time itself. The sun is dying at the end of the universe. And they say that they will take Hadrian to the Judicator. And so they take him up these stairs. They're going through the city. They're trying to get into this temple, the other side of the city, and they have to avoid these huge mechanical monster tank things, some enemy, some just horrific thing that's sort of patrolling the streets. They have to stay out of the way. They have to hide from this thing. And Hadrian is just confused, scared, all the bad emotions, right? But he's going along with it, and they go down these stairs into this tunnel underground, and they're getting close to this temple. And when they get there, Rag opens the door, and we see that the walls are covered in cables, which all come down and converge to this dais in the middle of the room, and there's somebody kneeling in front of this dais. And immediately, where my brain goes is on Vorgassos, where Karn Sagara is. It's all these cables, and we saw the egg there, right? It just, okay, right? It's another bringing back this thing. It's all coming together. Wow, this is great. This is great. And this figure is Rag, right? Who calls himself Ragama. And Hadrian is like, this is a watcher who is in front of me. What's going on with this? And Ragama says that he is what they were meant to be, what they were before. And this seems to be a watcher who did not break their oaths, that they were doing what must be done for the good of creation. And he asked Hadrian, what is the quiet? And Hadrian's sort of thinking, and the fragment of Ushara that's still in his mind says absolute. The quiet is the absolute, which is really interesting. But then Ragama finds this fragment of Ushara and pulls it out of Hadrian and asks for permission to kill it. And Hadrian says, yes, go ahead. So he kills this fragment of Ushara. So it's pulled out of Hadrian's mind, gone now. And so Ragama appears again, but now as a woman, changing form. And she's explaining to Hadrian more about the quiet, that the quiet was there before creation itself. And it created and ordered the universe and created the watchers to watch over everything. And the reason that the universe is ending is the watchers broke their oaths and they're no longer holding to their duties to watch over things. Ragama says that the quiet's purpose is to preserve humanity and bring them into the next universe. And Ragama's purpose now is to go after these traitor watchers who abandoned their duty, who defied their oaths to the quiet. He's trying to go after and bring them justice, the judicator. And Ragama shows Hadrian the egg that is eternal, whose time is the end of time. This seems to be the quiet. Maybe this is what grows into the quiet in the future or something like that, right? Because we know the quiet is at the end of time and is working backwards to ensure its creation. And Ragama offers Hadrian the chance to destroy the egg, which would free him of his burden to be doing what the quiet is asking him to do. And they'll find some other person, right? Hadrian was chosen for this because it's the shortest path to ensure the creation of the quiet. But they're giving him an out. They're giving him a chance to get out of this. They'll pick somebody else. They'll wait longer. And Hadrian just falls to his knees. He's distraught. He can't do it. He can't destroy the egg, because if he destroys the egg, he frees himself of this burden. He can go back in time, right? He can have Valka again. He can have Polino and Switch and Siran and all these people again. But he can't do it, because if he does that, he loses all the suffering, but he also loses Cassandra. And he cannot live with the idea of losing this daughter that means everything to him. And Ragama's surprised, admittedly, that Hadrian decided not to do this, but has some respect for Hadrian. Hadrian feels ashamed that he misunderstood the quiet, that he thought the quiet was this selfish entity that just wanted power and was using him for his own ends. And he kind of gets it now, right? He kind of gets it now. He understands now his place in what he's doing with this. He understands more about the nature of the universe and the watchers and the quiet and the real powers at play. And Ragama then decides to send him back. So he gets this metal spike, stabs Hadrian through the heart, and sends him back to the world of the living. So he gets up. He wakes up. It's been 2 days since he died. Somehow his body has rematerialized. His hair is now fully black again. It doesn't have that white streak in it from UA. His scars are all gone. His fake bones that Sagara gave him back in book 2, real bones again. His smile is no longer crooked, right? He is perfect. He has been reformed to the perfect version of himself, and nobody believes that he's back, right? Of course, nobody. Cassandra is horrified, right? She doesn't think that it's really him. Lorien doesn't think it's him, but he tries to shoot him with his laser gun, and Hadrian phases through it. He uses his quiet powers, and Lorien's like, okay, Yep, you're the real Hadrian. I get it, you know? But he finds himself on this ship with his crew, the Ramanthanu and the Cielson, Albe, Lorian, Cassandra. Selena is there. She joined for some reason. She wanted to be with them, I guess. And so they're all wrapping their heads around the fact that Hadrian is there. And they're going to go to Latara, right, to sort of rendezvous with Herentides. And along the way, there's all this back and forth. And eventually Cassandra comes to terms with that this really is Hadrian. There's a very heartwarming moment there where she finally accepts that it's really him, despite his differences now, and that she still doesn't fully understand what happened. But Hadrian probably really doesn't either, right? But eventually they get to Latara, they meet up with the extras and with Herentides. And when Hadrian meets Herentides, he recognizes his face, and he's just like, hey, you're Ren. You're one of these kids that we saved that Karn Sagara took the body of in book 2. You are Karn Sagara, right? Like, oh man, just the layers in this book. The layers in this book. We learn that Suzuha, which is the other body that Sagara took, has sort of ostracized Ren. She was taking all the power in Vargassos by herself, and she pushed him away, and so now he's been out trying to amass power because he wants to come back and take it. So he wants Vargassos, he wants the Demiurge, he wants Brethren, he wants all the secrets that are there, and he says that he will help Hadrian get to Vargassos if Hadrian will help him conquer that, and he'll make sure that everything goes smoothly, they'll cooperate, they'll do this together. But if Hadrian tells his real identity to anybody, he's going to kill Cassandra, right? So there's sort of his leverage. And Ren, Herentides, reveals that there's some way that they used a watcher on Vargassos to raise the dead there, which is really creepy. But also, to think about, Karn Sagara wants to be immortal, right? And he's constantly jumped bodies to stay immortal. Is this connected to that somehow? Perhaps. And now the plot thickens once again. Selena is on this ship. She wasn't supposed to go, and the emperor thinks that they kidnapped her. And so he's declaring war. And so now they have to negotiate with this, and they decide that they can send Selena back in exchange for the emperor giving thousands of planets of his empire to Herentides. So through this just circumstance that really wasn't planned from Herentides, he's able to secure one of the main things that he wants and is able to get Selena out of the way so that he can focus on his own goals. And right when Selena is being sent back, Hadrian meets up with her and he gives her this note. We see a lot of secret notes passed in this book also, but he gives her this note saying that Herentides is Karn Sagara, and this is a warning to the emperor. He's hoping that this gets to the emperor so the emperor sees what Herentides is planning and can send help out to Vargassos because he just thinks that they're going to need it. But this is really risky. He's risking Cassandra's life doing this because, again, he literally was just told if he reveals this identity, Herentides is going to kill Cassandra. So it's a really risky play. So we get to Vargassos and we go in to attack, right? All the ground troops are going there. Hadrian, Ren, Cassandra, the Cielson, Ramanthanu, and like those, they're all going in. They're going after Sagara here, right? Trying to find a way to get the Demiurge, to get the technology here, to find a weapon, some way to kill the Watchers. And this whole time, Hadrian's thinking in his head, how do I betray Herentides? He's like, I gotta find a way out of this because we can't let this dude live. Like, this is bad. This is really bad. We gotta find a way to kill the Watchers, and we gotta find a way to betray Herentides. And what he winds up leaning towards is, let me find some way, let me find Suzuha, give her Herentides in exchange for him getting the Demiurge and letting her go free, right? This is sort of the compromise that he comes up with that feels the most worth it at this point. They get to the palace and they hear that Sagara has been captured. They get to this palace room, they open it, they try to find Sagara. It's not Sagara, it's a Hadrian clone, right? Way back in Howling Dark, there was a moment when Sagara got some of Hadrian's blood, and he used it to make this clone. And now Hadrian's like, well, how many other copies of me are running around here? This is horrible. So he kills the clone, and then just once more, chaos ensues. They're fighting their way through. They get to the Tree of Life there in Vargassos, and Ren, Herentides, is sort of explaining just some more things. We see more about him really just wanting immortality at all costs. It doesn't really matter. And he seems to have formed a new plan. So there's all these pods along the Tree of Life that has these human bodies, these potential host bodies, just like he once was there back in Howling Dark. And what he decides to do is he plugs himself into this interface and is trying to take control of every body all at the same time and have all of these beings independent able to act, able to think for themselves, that can scatter across the galaxy and preserve the identity, the idea, the person of Karn Sagara. But Hadrian and his men start attacking them, right? Suzuha, the other Karn Sagara, sends drones in to kill them, right? They're just fighting their way through, and Hadrian eventually gets through all of these clones and finds his way over to Suzuha, right? And now has a discussion with her. We learn that she had contact with the Cielsen way before the Empire was ever aware of them, that she killed the last of the Americanii, that she was the reason the Cielsen gained power and was able to travel the stars and do all these things. Like, she's really the root of all this. And Hadrian now is realizing Karn Sagara, the mythical hero that he used to hear stories about when he was a boy, that he just looked up to and he admired, at this point is realizing Karn Sagara is responsible for billions of deaths. And he's finding once more his whole world is turned upside down. And Hadrian is still trying to negotiate with Susa. He's trying to get the Demiurge. He feels like he needs the Demiurge to be able to kill the Watchers, to go out and do what he can, the technology that's on the Demiurge. And Suzuha is just not cooperating. And she brings out sort of her last thing here, a clone of Valka, to try to convince Hadrian to stop pushing for what he's trying to push for. And this clone of Valka it's very close to the real thing, but it's just a little bit different. It doesn't have the imperfections. Sagara tried to make a more perfect version that was more alluring. And Hadrian's just like, this is not my Valka, right? This is not the same thing. This is not the same person. And Hadrian discards her, the clone, and he goes to kill Suzuha, right? In this moment that just really reaffirms his love for Cassandra and Valka. He goes to kill Suzuha. And he does. He just cleaves her head in half as this drone kills the Valka clone, and Hadrian runs over. He can't help himself. He grabs the body. He's just like cradling it, and he's looking at her. This is the moment. Every time I talk about this book and I talk about how this destroyed me, this is the moment that I lost my mind. It's such a complicated emotional moment for Hadrian. The love that he has for Valka, the relief of seeing her again, the thought of being able to talk to her just one more time, seeing her die in front of his eyes again, once again not being able to say goodbye, having the chance dangled in front of him, but he couldn't do it. The horror that this is just some perverted copy of her. It's not the real thing. It's such joy and happiness and relief and hatred and sadness, and there's so much all combined into this one moment that Rocchio just wrote so perfectly, that this wow, man, like I just it just ripped my heart out. This was so hard to read. This was just so bad. But he's holding this body, and then the rest of Hadrian's men get into the throne room to kind of help him get out of this situation, basically. But Hadrian knows that there's something else he has to do. So he and Cassandra go down to the lower levels, and they're going to go confront Brethren. And Hadrian's trying to demand the Demiurge. He's trying to make sure that Brethren gives him access to it, because he needs it to kill the Watchers. Brethren won't cooperate. So Hadrian signals Albae to detonate these mines that they planted that's going to drain the sea, which he knows will kill Brethren. Brethren's too heavy, right? It will die under its own weight if it's not underwater. And so he's draining the sea here. And while Brethren is dying, Hadrian sees more visions. And here he sees this little boy named Daniel, who says they're going to be taken to someone named Cheyenne, and sees him being operated on by this machine. The machine apparently is Cheyenne. And what we're seeing is ancient Americani machines being created. Daniel, the boy, was operated on, was turned into this abomination of Brethren. We even see a moment of Daniel/Brethren on this remote planet being visited by the original Karn Sagara, which is wild to think about. And when Brethren dies, a body crawls out of the corpse, and it calls itself Orphan, and Hadrian basically forces it to swear loyalty to him. Apparently Orphan was created by Brethren and given free will, and now Hadrian's going to use it to his own advantage. He's going to force Orphan to pilot the Demiurge, because no one else is able to pilot it. They need somebody familiar. This is their last chance. They got to use this thing. So now they're trying to escape, and there's been a bunch of fighting in the background while Hadrian's dealing with Brethren/Orphan, and he calls out to Cassandra, and when he does this, he distracts her. And at the last minute, her arm is cut off. And so now Hadrian has to live with this, right? Because he knows there's no, like, they can't get to a doctor fast enough. There's no way to save the arm. And she is a sword master, right? She fights with 2 swords at the same time, and she just lost one of them. So like seeing this is hard, because Hadrian's gone through some crazy stuff, injuries, but like he's always been able to be healed, at least to a large extent. Like she doesn't have this, right? There is no Sagara to give her false bones and a new arm anymore, right? She's on her own. And so they're able to get to the Demiurge. They're getting off Vargassos, and Hadrian's pulled into one final vision, this time through Doriaika. And he sees Doriaika on Darentune, Ushara by his side. Ushara somehow survived. And Doriaika's feeling himself, right? He's clearly gained a lot of power. He says he's nearly there, right? Nearly ascended. And this is sort of his final challenge. And he grabs Hadrian's arm. Hadrian has a sword. He fights back, right? He cuts him and gets pulled out of the vision. He sees that he's bleeding. He knows that the vision was real. He sees Doriaika's severed finger on the floor. He grabs it, puts it in his pocket to hide it, right? But like he knows this was real. This wasn't just a vision. And so just a really scary moment, this challenge here from Doriaika now, who is allied with Ushara. He seems to be, has he fully ascended to Watcher level powers? I don't know. But like he's been doing stuff. He's been doing stuff. And we end the story with Hadrian ordering Orphan to pilot the Demiurge. And they go to destroy Vargassos once and for all. And we set up for the final chapter in Shadows Upon Time. So much is in this book. Like I said, it takes all the things that I love from every book and crams them all into one. There's these huge, crazy battle scenes. There's the cosmic horror at its most cosmic and horrific. There's the deep, emotional, just heart-wrenching moments. There's the fun moments of seeing characters reunite again, right? There is different layers to Hadrian now as a father. There is this different, all these motifs of the eyes with Ushara and with all the visions. And this is kind of one of the trippier Sun Eater books also with all the visions. Like there's so much. And so we end here now with Hadrian with some very unlikely allies. Some of these Cielsen with Orphan that was once brethren. Sagara is gone. Like there's just, wow. So here we are. We are ready for Shadows Upon Time, as ready as we can be anyway. And that's the end of this. So thank you so much for watching. Those of you who have stuck out and watched all these recaps, thanks so much. These have been really fun and a great refresher for me as well. Even if these got 0 views, like it'd still be fun for me because I get to refresh my memory going through my notes again. And now, at the time that this is coming out, we'll have only a few weeks left until Shadows Upon Time. I will do one of these for Shadows Upon Time as well at some point, right? It'll be obviously after the book has been out for a little while because I want to read it and then have time to let it sit and gather myself before I do something like this. But I do want to complete the video series, as it were. So thank you very much for watching. Sun Eater's incredible. Can't wait for book 7. See you next time.